almost 400 years before Daniel and the rest of Yehuda were taken away to Babylon. Shalomoh sent ships to remote areas of the earth to set up colonies, and they left waymarks of their presence. The descendants of those very early colonies remain, who speak the name Yahuwah. Among those tribes are the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Lakota, and Navajo, the largest tribe and nation of indigenous peoples. And they lived all over, but they now live in New Mexico. This is where the stone was found in Hidden Mountain. And this is a recent story, directly from a brother who went to visit it recently. Mark August. Today we're going to be talking to Mark August, and he and his family had taken a trip to New Mexico to see this stone that you see on a lot of my videos. It's called the Lost Luna Stone or the Mystery Stone. Hello, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
Great. And I don't know if you ever saw this, but this is a little tract that I sent to you by email just a moment ago.
Yeah, I've
There
received
it is. You've got it. And it just gives an overview of some of the details on it, but that's the history of it. But you had an experience, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We had what I would call a spiritual awakening type experience. And the amazing part of it is that most people that know me, know that I have went on a quest to prove to myself basically that Yahuwah, whether Yahuwah is real or not. And this quest has gone over some years and with a tremendous amount of studying and so forth and so on. And so on this adventure, it seems as though this quest has come to an end because the very last thing that I concluded was just not too long ago, I asked Yahuwah, I said, well, Yahuwah, there's only one thing left for us to do. And that is to for you to show yourself to me like you did Moses, Abraham, Yitzhak, Jacob, Jacob, and some others. And I said, do you love me less? That you would show yourself to them and not to me? Have I not diligently searched you out? And his immediate answer that I understood, as thoughts roll through my mind sometimes, was that it wouldn't matter if I did appear to you, or even if I raised someone from the dead and they came to you that you knew was dead and you saw them alive, it still wouldn't change your belief. And so I pondered that for quite a while, really over some months, not really quite grasping that. And then it finally came to me what he was saying. Our belief comes from him. It's nothing we can do. If we're going to have belief, it's going to come from Yahuwah, no matter what we experience. That's why a lot of these folks back in the day of Yahusha was walking around with him and being eyewitnesses to his miracles and his signs and wonders, even raising dead people in front of their eyes. And when he would teach them, if the teaching was spiritual and too hard for them to understand, Scripture says many of them walked away shaking their head because the teaching was too hard, even though they saw him perform all these miracle signs and wonders. And so our belief comes from Yahuwah, and it's a gift. And so back to the topic here, yes, as we'll go on, we'll show evidence as we go through, share our adventure with people out here watching this, that it seemed as though my quest had come to an end when Yahusha appeared as a bright light at the Los Lunas stone. And we'll get into the details of that. And so therefore, I would think, and others that know me well would say, well, your quest has come to an end. He finally appeared to you, right? So you know for sure he's real, right? And so I pondered that for some days after we came home. And what Yahusha spoke to me about that was that he says, your quest is not over. It has just begun. And it humbled me exceedingly. And that brings us up to our conversation today, Lew. And I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, it was amazing when we saw some of the photos from your trip, and the photo where the light was taken. Your wife had taken a photo of the light, and we wanted to just briefly run through some of the highlights of your trip. And the information that I had already gathered historically was that we had discovered that the Native Americans are actually Israelites and the lost tribes. And one of the questions I was wondering if you had a picture or you remember what the name of that Indian reservation was right there at Los Lunas, because it's possible that there's a remnant of the generations of the peoples of Israel that were, left behind and made the colony, and maybe even had a settlement there where that gate stone was erected, because right now it's tilted and it's possibly earthquakes have moved it. But the Navajo tribe has been in that area for quite a long time. You saw one of the things. You saw the reservation, right?
I did see the reservation sign. It's like 100, maybe 100 to 200 yards or something further down the road where you turn left to go into the landfill there. But I'm sorry, but I do not remember the name of the tribe, but it definitely was not Navajo. It was something else. It would be easy to get on search engine and find that out.
Yeah, you could get on Google Maps and just drive down the road that you took and turn your camera,
Yeah, it's a big green sign. You can't miss it. It's huge. It's big, quite big sign. It's not a small sign.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I have no doubt that, even the language of the American Indians there in that area, in other places too. I think they went even farther up, like in the places like Iowa and things like that. And we find hints of the Hebrew, Paleo-Hebrew language among the languages of the American Indians. And it's quite interesting that they know, the Great Spirit in the sky, and it's a pretty good description of Yahuwah, I would say.
Yes, it is. Iowa, Yahuwah, some of the people. And how would you describe your experience on the mountaintop approach? When you first arrived there, you were driven to be there, first of all, by Yahusha, and then you find yourself having a little trouble finding it. But one of the brothers that put up a video recently, Jay Noland, he put some arrows on the ground that really helped you.
He sure did. And without his efforts, we would have never found it. It would have almost been impossible just to go out there and wander around and try to find that without any directions or map or anything at all. So yeah, he did us a great service there, and it was really quite spiritual as we were going down from the start to the end, really. And at that point where we had found his markers, which were in looked like an arrow that he had made with stones and then were laying on the ground, that I had in my mind that he had prepared Yahuwah had sent him there in advance to prepare a way for us in the wilderness. And that's what come to my mind. Spiritually.
So after an arduous journey and a hike of about 2 miles in the hot sun, you come upon the area and you still didn't see it, but then you finally saw it. What was that like when you finally laid eyes on it?
It was like a relief, okay, we finally found it type relief, and I couldn't stay away from it. I was drawn to it. My wife, Pamela, who is really the one to be credited for taking the photos, she has had 2 knee surgeries on both her knees. And so it was quite a struggle for her to get to where we were going. And I had to stop several times to help her along. But she was a good trooper. She pushed right through it and she got there. And we had our 2 great grandchildren with us, 6 and 8. And as we got to the crest of the hill there, the first hill that we were walking around on, a real narrow stony path that was real treacherous, maybe 12 inches wide, in a fall off a cliff to our right, with huge boulders and everything down in the gully there and all along the incline. We finally came up to that little flat area, maybe 2 foot by 2 foot, and they were exhausted. It was midday in the desert, clear sky, and they were red-faced, exhausted. It was hot, like 105 degrees. And so I said, why don't y'all sit here and rest and have a seat? Well, once they sat down, she had an umbrella. She popped it open. They were like hiding under the shade of the umbrella as the sun was straight overhead beating down on us. And I just happened to look backwards like this a little bit, and I looked down from that little area. It went down, declined, slight decline. It wasn't too far away, maybe a couple 100 feet from there. And I saw it. And when I saw it, I just turned, and it was like a magnet pulling me down there. And I said, y'all stay here and rest. I'll be back. But they could see me. It wasn't, we still had visual contact the whole time. So I walked down, and as I was approaching, getting closer to it, I saw a lot of graffiti all over the big rock that was setting on top of the covenant stone. So it's actually a huge rock, almost like a cone shape type thing when you're looking at it at a certain angle. And then the covenant stone lays under that at about a 45-degree angle. And as I approached, I saw this graffiti. And as I continued to get closer and closer, I realized what it was. And it was people's names. They had written their names all over the rock, not the covenant rock, but the main big rock. And so I started to get very angry inside. The anger in my bones was just, I can't even explain it. I was so angry when I saw that. I didn't even know why I was angry, really, but I was. And I walked on down through there, and I stopped in front of the covenant stone, and I looked at it, and it had been desecrated. The top line there behind you that displays his name was totally scratched out. It looked like possibly several times. And then I looked at it to the left, and there was a huge oil patch on there, like somebody had tried to anoint the rock with oil and perhaps used the wrong type of oil. Yeah, right in that area. And it almost caused the writing to be ineligible. You couldn't read it, And so my blood began to boil, and it was almost like I didn't even have control of what I was feeling. And so I walked around to the right, and I looked around there, and I saw more names graffiti, people writing their names all over this, not on the covenant stone itself, but all over the other part of the rock. And at this point, I just felt like my mind was going to explode. I mean, I was so angry at what I was seeing, but really didn't know why. And then all of a sudden, I heard Yahuwah say to me in my mind, sometimes thoughts go through my mind, especially at night. Man, he'll just throw, it's like a rotating door with scripture just going through my mind and then exposing things and telling me what things mean. Sometimes I can't even sleep. But anyway, he says, they come here and they praise me with their own name. And when I said that, the first thing that popped in my mind was, yeah, the churches even named their religions after themselves. And they even worship the founders of their religions. And they name themselves Saint this and Saint that. They're worshiping themselves. They're worshiping their own names. These thoughts were going crazy in my head, and it just added to my anger. So I just looked down for some reason, almost uncontrollable. It was like a knee-jerk reaction, if you will. I saw this real sharp stone. It looked like a half of an arrowhead. It was very sharp and thin and black. And I just reached down, I grabbed that, and I just inscribed his name, Yahuwah, on the right side of this rock underneath the bough of the branches of the tree, the only tree that was there. And the branches of this tree was laying on the rock. It was right up against it. And so right underneath the bough of those branches, I inscribed his name, Yahuwah, above the other names that were written on there. And I was saying, how dare you esteem him with your own name? And I just started going like this and ended up putting 8 lines underneath the name over top those other names. And then I kind of come out of it and I dropped the rock. I said, what am I doing? I probably shouldn't even be writing on this. I could get in trouble for that, And then so I turned and I walked just maybe 6 steps back over to the covenant stone, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and I look up there at my family and I says, come on down. And then they came down.
Well, you want to describe what happened a little bit later on when your wife and your granddaughter were waiting for you and your grandson?
Yeah. Because I would like to share a very important part of this story that I think we can't tell the rest of it without. And that is that we went there to see the stone, but my grandson and I also went there to search for gold, artifacts, treasure, more proof that the Hebrew were settled there. And so we took a metal detector and some digging tools and so forth and so on. And about the point where we were sitting there talking a little bit, there was huge round stones. I mean, perfectly round, like big giant cannonballs. So it was crazy. And then there were other flat stones, kind of like the front of the covenant stone there, laying all around too. It was really kind of strange. But we were sitting there talking. We were enjoying the little bit of shade that single tree was giving us. And I said to my grandson, I said, you ready to go up and see if we can find anything up on top there? So maybe we should go up there and look. He said, yeah, sure, Pa. So on the left-hand side of the covenant stone, as you looked at it, there was a little animal trail that went up the side and over top of the hill there. And it wasn't far. It was, I think the stone itself is maybe 12 to 14 feet tall. So it's not real tall. And so I said, well, let's go up that game trail there. And so we did, and it was only about 6 inches wide. So me and him took the metal detector and everything. We went up there and we're kind of walked back over there to the left a little bit and was kind of grassy, but it was still so stony you couldn't dig if you wanted to. It was almost a waste of time. So anyway, we turned on the metal detector and we're up there trying to find earthly treasure. And we're not finding anything. So this is about, when me and him went up there, I'm going to say it was about 11:40 a.m. It was nearing midday, straight up noon, right? And the sun was beating down on us. 105, I believe, is what it was. And nothing's happening. And so we kind of walked a little slowly, looking, trying to get around the stones and everything over toward the top of the big rock. And anyway, all of a sudden we hit this one little clearing-like spot, and the metal detector went off. Like, I've never heard it scream like it did. I mean, it was. And so I thought, man, did I just find the menorah or the Ark of the Covenant or something buried under this rock? Man, what's going on here? You know, I hit Fort Knox. Yeah, I thought I hit Fort Knox or something, you know. And so it was, in other words, I mean, it was the strongest signal and the loudest signal this metal detector could produce, right? So I thought, what did we find here, you know? And so anyway, after a few minutes, I told my grandson, I said, dig out a little bit of dirt right there on that one spot. It seems to be pinpointing right here. So he did, and just a couple inches of dirt, which he put back, but later. But so after that, I started doing it again, and it wouldn't go off at all. Not even a little beep, you know, nothing. And I did it at different angles, different positions as I walked around it and trying to get this thing to go off, even changing settings, and nothing. I couldn't get it to babes. I was like, it was dead at that point. So in the meantime, the real treasure had appeared to my to the girls, to my wife and my great granddaughter, unknowingly to us, as we were searching for earthly treasure. They had found the real treasure.
And you have photos.
Oh, we have lots and lots of photos. And her, she has a great phone, the Galaxy C, you know, Fold 3, 5G. It's got a good camera, really great camera on it. And she fortunately, she was able to capture most of what I'm saying to you right now. And it's an amazing testimony from her that I could share with you. So to continue on here now, we had decided, well, I said, come on, Case, and let's go over here and scare the girls. So we snuck over there and we went up on top of the big stone. We're acting like guys do, you know, we're going to scare the girls. And so we're up on top of the stone and we're looking, peeking down there, and we can't see them because the stone kind of goes outward like this. So there's a little hidden area there and we couldn't see them. So, we can't see them. So my grandson hollers out, Grandma, we're up here, you know. And so she steps out a few steps and looks up and sees us, and she snaps a couple pictures of us up on top of the stone. And so then we back off, come around the other side, and there's no path or anything. There's just a bunch of big giant rocks and little rocks and medium-sized rocks, and on the side where the tree is. And so we worked our way down on the rocks and saw lizards and stuff. And we got down to the bottom and come around the tree, and then we're just standing there now. And at this point, she says, did you all hear that noise? And I said, no. She said, did y'all see that light? I said, no. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, I don't know, Mark, but everything changed. I said, what? She says, everything changed, but yet it remained the same. I said, huh? What are you talking about? Because I don't know how to explain it to you. She goes, but I took pictures, and we didn't look at the pictures at that time. I think her battery was getting weak or something, you know, so she was being stingy with her phone. And so I didn't really think too much about it after that, you know, until we got back to the hotel room. But here's a couple things I'd like to add to this real quick. Before Kason and I went up on top of the hill to search for earthly treasures, like everybody else seems to do when instead of searching for Yahuwah, right? Kind of embarrassing to tell you that, but that's what we did. Is that while we were up on top, my wife and my great granddaughter, who's 6, was down below, and they were touching the covenant stone, and they were running their fingers through the letters with their fingernails, and they were both doing that. And my wife was talking to Yahuwah. She wasn't praying, she was just talking to him. What her conversation with him was, I do not know. And so then at this point, she said that she realized that everything had changed. It was almost like she was in another dimension of sorts. Kind of weird, you know, or contained within a force field of sorts, is what I get out of her description. But when everything changed for her, but yet remained the same, that's her words, she began to hear a noise. And the noise she did not recognize. And then all of a sudden, the bright light, bright as the sun, appeared on top of the rock. And she saw it, and it was like when you look at the sun, you got to turn away real fast or it's going to hurt your eyes. That's what her experience was. She kind of glanced at it, but it hurt her eyes so bad, she turned her head, closed her eyes, raised her arm, pointed the camera at the light like this, and snapped the picture. Okay, so when she did that, her head was still turned there for seconds, and then she could tell with her eyes closed that the light had gone. You know, wasn't there anymore. Through her eyelids, she could tell that. And so then after the light, she knew the light was gone, so she turned and looked real fast, and there was nothing there. And then she kept hearing, but the noise was still there. And so she immediately turned her video on and was doing this, and you can hear her tell my granddaughter, shh, because she was chattering up a storm like she normally does. And then you can hear something on the recording. And I tried to play it on my computer speaker system and everything, and it's just not the same. It doesn't sound nowhere near the same. But when we got back to the hotel, and when I finally had a chance to listen to that, my wife was listening to it up to her ear, and she was saying, I don't know what that is, Mark. There's something weird about this sound. I said, give me that thing. Let me see. So I grabbed it and I put it up to my ear like this, and I could hear immediately what it was, because I'm very familiar with one of the, I think it's a sister that had posted on YouTube a video that allows us to hear our breathing pattern inside our bronchial tubes. And it sounds like this. It says Yahuwah when we breathe. Put a stethoscope on our lungs. A nurse or doctor can confirm that. My wife's an RN. Several years ago, when we discovered this video this woman had posted on YouTube, I told her about it, and her friends, her RN friends, right, and her did this at work, and they confirmed that, yeah, we could hear it. It does do that. And they didn't even realize it until we brought it up, you know. And so anyway, when I put the cell phone to my ear of the recording she did of this sound, I immediately recognized it as this exact precise sound that was on that video that I've been showing around the internet for several years. It's not my video, but it's, I think the Yahuwah's Ministries, the Ministry Way or something like that. But anyway, it sounded up against my ear. I could hear it. Just like that. It was saying his name, and no doubt in my mind. Exact same way our lungs do it. And then it was interesting when me and you were talking the other day, and you said, well, Mark, when Moshe was walking past, asked Yahuwah if he could see his goodness, that he stuck him in a cave, and then he said when he would walk by him, he would proclaim his name to him as he walked by. And that blowed my mind. So here we have him proclaiming his name to the girls before he actually manifested himself as light.
It's absolutely incredible. And your wife experienced something, and your great-granddaughter, a life-changing event. That's so amazing.
Absolutely. And not only for them, but for all of us.
All of us.
Because Yahuwah made it clear to me that I did it the way I did it, so to keep you humble. Because I was tore down, man. I was really heartbroken. I was like a little kid with my head hanging down, kicking stones, right? How could I be so stupid to go there looking for earthly treasure, and the true treasure was there the whole time? And he was, because we have another video of myself and my two grandchildren sitting in front of the stone, and we're reciting the 10 love commands of 10 Debarim, 10 commandments for the beginners. And there's this frequency, light frequency, okay, in this video before any of that other stuff ever happened. And so as we were saying, this frequency, like a arch, like a white rainbowish arch, is reacting to our words, and it's going up and down like this. So that, like a light frequency, I don't want to get into all that, but it's a fantastic study. If you've never studied frequencies, you should. But the light frequency is a very high frequency. And so Yahuwah, being light, would have a frequency that he lives in, and so do we, and so do diseases. And they're experimenting with frequencies to try to heal people now, because certain diseases can't live outside of a certain frequency. But anyway, this frequency thing is reacting to what we're doing.
Words of life.
Yeah, words of life. It was an amazing thing to see. Yeah. And so he was there the whole time. Oh, yeah. That's what was amazing. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Well, he draws us to his covenant, and he's waiting for the obedience, and then he manifests himself, and in a way that we may not expect. Yeah. That is so precious. Wow. Mm. This is as much as anything for those that may be on the fence, deciding whether they should follow him or not. And if you're thinking about not following him, what can you lose? I mean, all you have to do is just obey his covenant. It's an eternal covenant. It's written in stone here. Actually, this is a fleece blanket, but this is the image that you saw in real life. And
absolutely is
amazing. It was left there as it's a way marker. It's a gate stone that they were instructed to leave. And what was it, to write it on your door frames and on your gates. And every settlement that Israelites ever had, they put these 10 words up there.
Yes, and it is. You can tell it is a gateway because when you go up this little 1 foot wide stony path, um, and you get down, and then you go down, like I said, and then there it is, right?
Mhm.
Okay. From there, it goes up through a little gully, just with huge rocks in it. It's a pathway leading up between two hills, and on the backside of that hill is called Hidden Mountain. And they call it Hidden Mountain because you can't see it until you go through, it's between those two hills there, right up through this gully. And so when you get there, Hidden Mountains there, and that's where the village was, the settlement, because there's artifacts up there proving that someone was living there at a period of time, sometime.
Yeah.
So what's up there is like a half a house, and everything's made of stones. It's all stones, and it's about half still there. There's a pen-in area that you could see that was for livestock, perhaps sheep or goats or whatever. And then there's a tabernacle there. And then on the side of the cliff, there's a huge rock, and on that rock, between that rock and the cliff, there's a flat rock, and it's long. And you almost have to go around it and stand on the very edge of the cliff. And this was an outdoor altar where they were sacrificing animals and stuff on this flat rock, right there near the edge of the cliff. And so there's where they were living. That was their village. And so this would be coming down from the desert area, the flatland where the river was and all that, up through all these hills. You hit this, and then from there, which would be the gate entranceway to go up through that gully of rocks between the hills and onto Hidden Mountain and get to where they were living.
Well, it was a powerful experience.
Yeah, the experience was just mind blowing, and Scripture tells us about him being bringing us out of darkness into his marvelous light, and it also has a messages too that of Yahuwah, that he is a ruach and who dwells in unapproachable light. And then there's all the experiences of Paul, Sheol of Tarsus, who is an eyewitness to the manifestation of Yahushua after his ascension. And what Paul saw in all three accounts of Acts was light. He appeared,
a voice speaking to him in Hebrew.
And he saw a light, and it was a marvelous light, and it even blinded him. So if it's bright enough to blind him, he blind for 3 days afterwards, you can see that it is a very bright light to be able to do that to a human being, So, and there's dozens upon dozens of verses, passages in Scripture that explains that he is light. He's the light of the world. Okay, the life is in the light. All kinds of things like that we see him explaining to us. So there's no reason to doubt or even to think that he wouldn't appear to us if we would happen to see him as light. And a word of caution is, if this experience would happen to someone, I would suggest closing your eyes and turning your head very quickly, like my wife did, or you might end up like Paul, be blinded, right? Blinded by the light.
Yeah.
So it was an experience like no experience I've ever had. I've had a lot of experiences in my life. But
there was a presence, though, that your wife sensed and you sensed. You could feel it. And apparently your metal detector sensed it.
Exactly. There's a message behind all this, and we'll get to that at the end if you remind me why this all took place, you know. But I was feeling really sad and heartbroken about all this, because I was like, you know, how can I be so stupid? Here it is. I've been asking him to show himself to me. So here he does, but I'm out hunting earthly treasure instead of the spiritual treasure that we all need to live.
Right.
Earthly treasure only leads to death and darkness. We all need to stop that. And we need to start focusing on the true treasure, which is Yahusha. He and he alone can give us everlasting life. That's the treasure. And if we seek him out and forget about everything else, we will be highly rewarded in eternity. I mean, we'll all have more treasure than we could stomach, for sure.
Would you care to show the picture that your wife took with her camera when she couldn't look at it?
Yeah, we could probably do a share screen here. I have photos.
Yeah.
Let me kind of give you this in order, and then I will share screen. So first thing I want you to realize is all this happened within a short time frame. Mm-hmm. This was an all-day event. This was rapid fire, right? So here we are arriving on the little plateau. And this happened there. This is where I told them to wait. This happened at 11:33 a.m. I know that because it's on her phone when she took the pictures, right? So there we go. We arrived at 11:33 a.m., near midday. So then I had her camera. It's the only time I had her camera. That's why I took that picture, right? So then this is the next thing that happened at 11:44. I took this picture of all that graffiti. And if you notice here, Lou, it's where I wrote his name.
There it is.
You see it?
Yep.
And a lot of graffiti of people's names all over it. You see it's at a 45-degree angle. Yeah. All right. So then that was 11:44, right? Okay. So
11 minutes later. Yeah.
Yeah. So they come down. I hand her phone, and me and Kason go up. All right. So this might have been actually, yeah, it was 11:44. So this picture, it only took us 10 seconds to go up this little animal trail and get on top, me and Kason. I mean, we just scrambled up there and went on, right?
Yeah.
So then 1 minute later, now 1 minute, this happens. This is the picture she took. This was 11:45. This one thing here, and we'll get, when I share screen, we'll be able to see it better. But you see this little tree right here? This thing was laying over on the rock, and I did this. It was real small. I just showed it to you, but yet the branches have moved off of the rock, and half of the leaves are white from the bright light hitting the
it's like there's a pressure is pushing the tree away.
Yeah, because there's like a force field here coming down like this over the whole situation.
Wow.
It's like it's being protected by some kind of force field or shield or something. And it's pushed this tree away, and all the leaves on the tree, half of them are white and half are green now. And the name has become magnified and circled.
Yeah.
And this bow up is separating him from his name here in order to let you know that he circled his name. So you can see that he circled his name, magnified it, and pushed these branches away with this force field of some kind. And here he is. Okay. The light is penetrating this rock, coming right through it. And you can plainly see that he's standing on this rock. This isn't the sun way out here in the sky somewhere. This light is on this rock. You can see it is. You see, he's standing right on it, and it's all turned purple. This is Yahusha.
And it was noon, so you've got.
This is at 11:45. Yeah, it's at 11:45 a.m.
And that's
the sun is directly above our head, beating down on me.
yeah.
And my wife and my grandchildren. And I think when I was on the hill, perhaps I looked up at the sun. It was 105 degrees and it was baking us. That's why we got out of there fairly quickly too, you know. Plus the long walk kind of drained our energy. But I remember looking up. I don't remember when it was, but I saw the sun, and there was like, you know, like a rays. You could see, you know, when you take a picture of the sun, you can always see the sun rays or burst coming off of it, even if you filter it. And this one has nothing like that. It's just smooth, you know, and gentle looking, right? And so anyway, I looked up there and the sun was way up overhead. I had to do this and look up at it. And it was real small because it was way up there overhead. Yeah, it was approaching midday. So now this is the interesting part. After the light dissipated and she was able to turn and look, Case and I were on the hill. We didn't see this. We didn't hear this. Okay, 11:45 at 12 o'clock sharp. I mean, spot on, man. Right at the time, 12 o'clock p.m. Okay, Kason and I had walked over to the rock. We're standing on the same exact spot nearly, and you see the tree. It's right up against the rock. You see it? It's laying over on top of the rock. And this is 12 o'clock noon. It's only 15 minutes later. So if this was the sun, where's it at? Where's it at in this picture 15 minutes later? Wouldn't it still be seen here? It's not, because it wasn't the sun. The sun was over our heads. It's 12 o'clock noon. This is 15 minutes later. If that was the sun, why isn't it showing in this picture 15 minutes later? It's not. If this was the sun, it would probably, I would guess, I'm a military guy, that it would have been about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night if the sun was that low in the sky. And it surely wouldn't have set within 15 minutes. It would still be here. Proving that wasn't the sun. The sun was above our heads. It was midday, straight up noon. Now this is interesting because, remember I said that the tree was pushed back by this force field? Coming down, my wife and my granddaughter was in this force field. That's why everything changed to her, but yet it all remained the same and she couldn't figure it out. So look at this. This is 12:02. This is when me and Casey came down off of the hill, around the other side, climbed down the rocks, come around the tree, and we're standing here, and she snapped a picture of us since we came down. Look at the tree. It's back up against the rock. See the difference in the tree? Here it's pushed away. Here it's laying right back down on it. And look how bushy it is. Look how thin it is. And all these leaves, half of these leaves are white. And these are all green. So something weird happened with the tree. And here again, with the tree.
It's amazing.
So that was only 2 minutes later. And so that I think is enough for you to see what I'm trying to get at. There was definitely a presence. There was definitely some kind of either another dimension or a protective shield of sorts, or something has happened here. Things have changed, right? So I think that's pretty good evidence of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interdimensional experience.
That would be a good way to describe it.
Yeah, it was a close encounter of the Los Lunas kind.
Yeah, the Yahuwah kind.
Yeah, the Yahuwah kind. Yeah.
But wonderfully experience for them. And like I said, I kicked myself and everything for hunting earthly treasure instead of the heavenly treasure. But and I moped around for a couple of days over that, and maybe 3 or 4 days. I finally said, I'm going to call one of our brothers. And so I did. And our brother was very kind with his words, to say the least. And his reaction after I shared the story, I think he's the first one I even told this to, was that, wow, I've never heard anything like this in my life. And it seems to me like it's a Moja type experience, like when he went on to Sinai or something, it blew.
Exodus 33, right?
Yeah, he was blown away with it. But he said, but he did give me what I needed to hear. And he said, look, Mark, just don't beat yourself up anymore over that. He said, because you already have the Ruach, this was not for you. And he said, so he appeared to others for whatever reason, and you later on, but since you already have the Ruach, you needed no more proof of him. And I said, you're right, of course. And then it made me feel better. And I finally come out of it. And later on, Yahuwah kind of, as he does to me with some thoughts and verses, let me know that, look, I said, well, why? Why did this happen this way? And it's a twofold message, and it had to happen this way so it would benefit more people through the message, through you, through your example. And he said, besides that, I like you a lot better when you're humble. Stay humble.
Yeah, stay that way.
And so it kind of, it woke me up, man. I understood then what he was doing and what his will was, what his plan was.
You mean now you're not going to walk up and down the highways of the world with a big stick and dress like they used to 2,000 years ago and feel like you're on a quest to tell everybody? But you're using technology now. How many days has it been approximately since this happened to the present day of this recording?
Well, it was, there would be about a week or so. And so we left on the 5th day of last week, because remember, I didn't do the Zoom at noon. You did it for me, and then I didn't do the NetStream live broadcast. And so, when we got there, of course, we went to bed and we got up and then took off and went over there, Los Lunas. That was the 6th day. And then we wanted to stay longer, but it was so hot, and the kids, you could see their faces are red. I had to pour water on them and down their backs and everything. Yeah. It was hard on them. And of course, my wife, bless her heart, with the 2 knee surgeries and everything. I mean, this was like me walking maybe 50 miles, and for her. Yeah. And so I think Yahuwah had a little bit of was favoring her. Yeah. Saw her struggle to come to his presence, But anyway, after we almost got back to our vehicle, he gave me another revealing in my mind, if you will, that he says, you're going to see me. And I didn't even see these pictures. Now, I don't even know what he's talking about at this point, right? But he says, you're going to see me, but as looking through a mirror. I thought, huh?
That's what a cell phone is.
And that's what a cell phone is. The lens is like a mirror, is it not? Is it not taking our image?
Yeah.
Right? An image of us. It's like we're looking in a mirror, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I understood that later, much later on, but I didn't get it at that time. And so, yeah, it was a very a spiritual experience like no other, really. I mean, it was from the beginning to the end. Although I was not keen to it as I was going through it, I was like, I guess, almost like in a daze to it. I mean, it was kind of weird, but I was picking up on the spiritual implications of each step we took, but I wasn't keen to the whole picture. Had my mind on earthly treasures and what we're going to find and what's it going to look like, this kind of thing, But as we walked through it there and back, I was getting pieces of the puzzle put together for me to where I was seeing the spiritual implication of the adventure, and it was totally spiritual, totally.
Well, the impact of this is just on me has been tremendous. And the fact that even if you'd not had any spiritual experience, it would have been wonderful to just know that this is confirmed. But he came in order to verify this, and he gave it validation, personally, because he isn't kidding around with these 10 commandments, and they're so important that people just don't realize, and their pastors are keeping them away from them. His name, when you drew his name in Latin letters onto the rock so that people today could see it and pronounce it, it got his attention. He said, what am I going to do? Just ignore this? No, he took full advantage of this. He set it up. Actually, we think we did it, or you think you did it, maybe a little, but really, he was driving the whole thing. He's driving the bus. We're just the co-pilots.
Yeah, and that's one of our as humans, that's one of our big our big stumbling blocks, is that we always think we're doing it, and it's never us doing it. It's Yahuwah doing everything. He's actually given us breath. He lays us down at night. He wakes us up in the morning. He gives us breath through the night and sustains us. It's always Yahuwah. It's never us. Everything you do, your entire life, is because of Yahuwah. And we all need to start acknowledging him. And in scripture there, it says that he placed his word, which is what's behind you there, and his name above all things. And so this word here behind Lew White here is placed even above his name. Okay, so it says the word and his name are above all. So he even placed his word above his name, and both his word and his name have to bow down to him, because he's Al Shaddai. He created the word, and he created his name, and he created everything. He is everything. Once we get to that mindset, maybe we can take ourselves out of the equation and stop interfering with his plan and what he's doing.
Yeah, we're servants. We're just doing what he wants us to do, and we're not claiming anything for ourselves. It's just it's all him. And when we get into the kingdom, his reign here on earth, it's not going to be in heaven. We're going to be seeing the effect of little things like we did, but it's really him in us that did it, and that goes for everybody, So get busy, everybody, get out there and show him that you love him by letting him
go to work for him.
Go to work for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you.
Hey, Lew, if you want to, I can share a few of these pictures now and give you a little bit more perspective here of Well, we can't do it. It's disabled.
Uh-oh.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. Is there anything we can do about that?
Share screen.
I'm not going to do all the pictures. We have a lot, but I want you to take note of the clarity of them all. Some may feel like maybe this is some kind of imperfection or some kind of defect in the lens of the camera and the sun hitting and all this. But this is the only video we have that shows that force field or any type of color on it, you know. So you'll see how good of a camera she had as you look at some of these other ones. So just kind of keep that in mind. I think I can share screen now. Here we go. Yeah, I think this is it. Let's go here. Let's go there. Okay. Can you see me, Lew?
Yes. Yeah, I can see you.
You see all the pictures?
Yes. Yes, they're here.
All right. I'm just going to briefly go through them. This one here. There we go. This one here is on the road that leads back to the hills. It's you can't hardly tell it, but there's a lot of red rock in here. It's a hard pressed road. This is what you revealed to me, to walk on the road that many have been called to walk on. This is what he revealed to me spiritually with this. And the first road was the wide road that led to destruction, death, corruption, decay, darkness. Was the road when we cut in there. It was a big wide road, about 4 semi trucks could line up on it, and it went through some scales, the little shack, and then it continued behind a ridge. And you couldn't see the landfill, but it was a landfill. And we went through there, did a U-turn out of the landfill, pulled over and walked through the gate onto this road, which the landfill was the world. Spiritually, he was saying, take a U-turn, come out of that world and get over here on this road that many are called to walk upon. And so as you go down through the road, you know, it's a pretty easy track. Yeah. You can see we went down through it. There's barbed wire. Here's a dried up creek bed. Here's the little arrows that the brother before we went there prepared the way for us in the wilderness, Brother Nolan. Yeah. And you can see his little arrows here. Without that, we were lost. And I think without Yehukanan, the immerser, we would all been lost. And he prepared the way for Yahusha, right? And so this was a spiritual experience. And let me tell you, my little grandchildren, 6 and 8, are the ones that were seeing these signs as we were walking through here. And it dawned on me that we will be led by children, you know, out of the mouths of babes we will be led, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, here we are being led by children to the light, you know. But I didn't say the light, but I'm just saying that now. But back then the spiritual message was they will be led by children. And it was amazing because they led us, they saw all the arrows between the two of them. My wife and I didn't see anything. They were the ones pointing it out all the way down through there. So that was kind of an amazing thing. Here we go. Now he turned, you can see this arrow at the bottom, at the very bottom. Brother Nolan put that there off of the wider path that we were just on and said, go that way. So this is like an open area, but we walked through this little open area here, and then here's the trail that leads off going down to these hills. See the hills, this is where we have to go. And so now we're on a dirt path, sandy path with rocky, and the path is shrank down to about 6 to 8 feet across, maybe. Nowhere near the size of the one. So now it's spiritually we're walking on the the narrow path. We've come off the path that many are called to walk on, and the few that are called or chosen are to walk down this narrower path off of the main path. The many are still up that are called to walk on that path are still there, but that's not the path of the world that leads to death. It's a path for another reason. Which I don't have time to get into. Let's just go down this way. There's one of the big arrows going. This is the path is in back of us. So you can see the work that Brother Nolan put in to prepare the way in the wilderness for us, right? Here's another one. If we found any of the arrows that were messed up or anything, we would stop and fix them and make them more prominent, more bold to help others as well. Coming down through here. And this is, you can see the landscape is a desert, a little desert flower. You can see how the hills have become extremely rocky as we walk down through there. It's more, there's the little path we're on, very small. It keeps getting narrow and narrow. The path as it goes, it gets more narrow and narrow, and it gets down to where in some places it's only like 6 inches wide. It gets very treacherous. Okay, so here we've crossed over. When you get to the end, kind of like the end of this little skinny path, you cross over a dry creek bed about 15 feet wide, and there's a stack of rocks there as you right before you cross over. You cross over the creek, and now you're on this little stony path here that goes from the bottom left corner up to these two rocks, and then you can see my metal detector and the elbow of my grandson. We're walking up this little path that's got to be about 12 to 18 inches wide at this point at the bottom of the hill. And so there's the little left-hand corner bottom is the path walking through those two rocks. You can see how stony it has become. And this is loose stones that you could easily slip. Here we have reached the summit, if you will, of the path. And this little area about 2 feet by 2 feet right here. Here's our water cooler. This is our little water mule here. But anyway, we set everything down there. They were exhausted. You guys stay here and rest. I'll be right back. And that's when I turned and I saw the covenant stone. I told them that. And then I walked down this path between these two big rocks. You can see it's only about a foot wide. And then on down through here and down into the covenant stone, which was only several hundred feet away at this point. Now here we are at the covenant stone, and we are reciting the 10 Debarim. Me and the two children are. You can see a lot of the graffiti here. You see these little lines. You can see that where I wrote the name up here above these lines and underlined it here. It's underneath this tree. There's another shot at the covenant stone. This is the oil that somebody had tried to anoint. You can see it kind of blotted out the commandments here. You can't really see the letters anymore because they did this. This is definitely oil. It's not on the stone behind you. You can see that. And this black spot here is just part of the rock because all the rocks are black. So what happened here is, however this got to be cut off, it looks like somebody took and sanded that, made it flat, but they didn't. You'll see a lot of the rocks are that way. But anyways, you can see the desecration here where they scratched through his name right here. And here's his name also down here. You can see it here. Yahuwah. I mean, it's also up here, but it's been scratched off, and they're writing from right to left with the Paleo Hebrew words, which was what the Hebrew did. They wrote from right to left. Okay, so and just to say this is kind of weird to hear. It almost looks like the state of Texas or something there. Anyway, now you can see the name that I did, as I explained earlier. And you can see what I'm talking about. Look at this rock, how flat and nicely it's smoothed out. It's just a natural thing. I think there was this rock here seems to be it's a standalone rock. It's not connected to this big rock. You could take a machinery and just pull this out of there fairly easy. It's not attached. It's cut out all the way around. You can see that when you're there. There's just different angle shots. Okay, so here's the big one. This is the one where she is having her spiritual encounter with Yahuwah, and she couldn't look. She saw it, turned away, reached her arm up, snapped it. Here's the branches that when I wrote this, and you'll see one of the pictures, it was small. It wasn't real giant. This looks giant. This is magnified, maybe because of looking through the protective screen here, whatever this is. It's obviously covering the rock in the girls, but this tree is not included in the forest shield. It's been pushed back off of the rock substantially, really. And all these, half of these leaves are white from the light on this rock. And you can see that this isn't in the sky. This is on the rock because it's touching it right here. You see here where it looks like the white light's penetrating the edge of the rock? You can see it's down on it. It's touching it. It's just as on the rock, not in the sky. You see? It's coming down on it and touching it right here. You can tell it is. And look at the beautiful deep purple. And so look at the bow below here, this bow going upward. Then we have a space here, sorts like a time sand clock, And this bow here is going downward. So there's a contrast here in the direction of the bows in order to signify, hey, I'm Yahusha. Here's my name that you wrote on there, and he circled his name. See down below? He circled it, but you can see down below this one, this little rainbow looking light showing you that protruding out from the rock, there's a force field here. This is not a defect in the lens at all. Did you see how clear the other pictures were? And so you can see here then that the force field protrudes from the rock. It's not on the rock, it's covering the rock, but he circled his name here. He circled it as though he approved of it or confirmed it. And then the force field, you can see it, man. It's the whole rock is dulled because you have to look through this force field of sorts in order to see the rock. That's why it's all dulled out. And it's just an amazing thing to comprehend when you really start looking at this picture. It just more and more comes at you as you look at it. It's just an amazing sight to behold, really. Now here's a few more pictures. You can see the top of it. Here's some more graffiti. See all the big rocks just laying everywhere. Big rocks, medium rocks. See how they have a tendency of being perfectly surfaced, flat, smooth. Even the little rocks do. Here's another good fat, a good surface, flat surface rock. You see them everywhere here. This is amazing. There's big round rocks laying around it too. Look how smooth that one is. Look at these big round rocks. They're like a big cannonball or bowling ball or something laying around the covenant stone. It's really crazy. Yeah. I don't know where they would come from and how they would be perfectly rounded like that, where everything else is flat. But yet here's these two big round rocks, kind of out of place, you know. This is the top of the covenant stone. You can see the graffiti. This is like it was broken away. See, it's not smooth on the top. It's almost like it fell off of something. And so you have the jagged edge here, like a tree hit by lightning or the wind blowing it over. It's the cut's jagged, where this real smooth part here is almost like a chainsaw when you cut the tree and it's real smooth. So this is a different type surface, almost like a breakaway to me. So here we are. Go ahead.
I was going to say the study of archaeology really didn't even start until the late 1880s or so. And they started to, press ideas out there like dinosaurs, and they started digging around. Well, this fella found this stone in 1880 something. I'm just going by what I read about the stone from the past, and they never really made anything about it because it was in a remote area, a desolate wilderness. But he saw writing underneath this lichen. It was like all covered up, and it was probably covered up for hundreds, if not thousands of years, because it's been there for about 3,000 years, since the days of Shalomoh. And this lichen was completely covering all this area. It was ranches of all kinds of things. The vegetation was better then. And anyway, now it's become revealed, and you can see that this whole place is desolate and dried up and different. But then it was rediscovered by someone else in the 1930s. And they started to look into it a little, but then now they're claiming it's a fraud and all this other thing, all this other nonsense. But the writing is typical of the Samaritan area. That's where the boats were launched from Shlomo's day. They made the, up north, and like when Yonah went to Nineveh, or actually disobeyed and went in the opposite direction. He was going to another colony called Tarshish that was in southern Spain. And then he was, of course, in a big fish and so forth. But the thing of it is, this stone dates back to the time of the Shomron, when the tax rebellion happened after Shlomo's death. It dates that far back, if not further. And the Samaritans had a distinctive way of writing the 10th letter of the alphabet. No one really showed up writing it that way. But the first letter in the name, which is right there, it kind of looks like a hand with fingers. And up there again, see, it looks like a comb almost, yeah? It's got three vertical lines and then a longer line on the far right. That's a Samaritan style of writing.
That's right.
Letter. Yeah.
See that black spot on there, Lew?
Yeah.
Right there's the letter you're talking about, right on
right
that
there.
black.
Yeah, right there.
Almost looks like a chair with 3 legs, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I picked up on.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. I think that is from that area, just because of the way they're making that particular letter there.
Yeah. They went out by ships. They had hundreds of people on those ships, and they were establishing colonies.
Yeah, all over the place. Obviously, people say, "Oh, they couldn't have got over here." Well, what? They sailed the length of the Mediterranean Sea and around the coastline of the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean from the coast of Israel to the end is farther distance than it is from Africa to South America, is a shorter distance. So they could obviously have the ability to sail that distance.
Yeah, they called the area to the west of in the Mediterranean Sea, where it goes into the Atlantic, you've got the Rock of Gibraltar there. Well, that was actually another name for that area, was that I think the Pillars of Hercules. Anyway, that was, but they went out into the Atlantic Ocean, and they were, following the rivers in the ocean, the channels. And when they got to Brazil, which is really close, like you were saying, it's only about 1/3 or less than half the distance of the whole length of the Mediterranean from Israel to the Atlantic. And it's a very substantially shorter distance. And Brazil is a Hebrew word for iron.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt that. They in their endeavor to search out gold and silver for Solomon, they were going all over the world digging mines and stuff. Solomon's mine, right, and bringing it back to the temple and stuff, back to the castle or the wherever he lived in.
Yeah, it took about 3 years round trip for them to come back, but they weren't all coming back. Some of them stayed behind to build the colonies and do the mining.
Yeah, and I think that it even says they were abandoned after Solomon went to sleep. They just abandoned all their settlements wherever they were, and they didn't go back for those people. And of course, if their boat needed repaired or something, they were stranded, right? And so,
and you also have the Navajo that live in that area right now. That you pass by one of the reservations may be direct descendants of these people that made this gate stone.
Okay, so back to this pictures here now. We've just got a few more.
Okay.
Here we are. It's 12 o'clock noon. We're standing up on here at 12 o'clock sharp. Look at the tree. See what I'm saying? It's it's laying on the rock, especially on the other side. And so I have to put his name underneath these branches and I had to stay down because the branches were up here. So I had to do it under the branches. They were laying on the rock, but yet they were pushed back by that shield. And a couple things in this picture is, one, look at this bow at the tip of this spade that Cason's shooting in the air and acting like he's the king of the world, or I don't know what was in his little mind, but he was pointing up there like he was somebody and pretending like kids do. And there's this beam of light here arching upwards. It's not coming from the sun. The sun is straight overhead. This is 12 o'clock sharp now. So there's a beam of light coming off the tip of this. This has kind of amazed me to see that. But down here in about the middle of the photo on the left side, as you're looking at it, there's these flat rocks right here. There's 5 of them. There's 4 stacked down here toward the ground. And then there's one laying diagonal here above them. And they appear to be tablets of sort. I didn't even know some when we were there. I wanted to go back when I saw that at the hotel, when we finally got to see these pictures. I wanted to go back and look and see if there was writing on these tablets. Look at these 4 here are stacked together, and here's one laying diagonal. They look like tablets of stone. And so I was blown away when I saw that. And so that's a pretty revealing photograph here, whatever it is. And so here now, 12:02, we come down the side of the rock. We were on top just 2 minutes ago. It's straight up noon. It's funny that they'd clocked at 12 o'clock sharp, isn't it? And so we remember that the light appeared at 11:45. So 12:02 now, we come down the side and around this tree, and here we are standing here. My wife snapped a picture of us at 12:02. It took us 2 minutes to get down and over to here. Okay, so I'm standing here with this stupid metal detector that distracted me from maybe possibly seeing the light. And here's Case, and he's still acting like he's got a sword or something in his hand. His little mind's still playing, pretending like children do. But the thing I wanted to point out here to you is, look here. This in the middle of the page to the left, here's the name I wrote. You see it in perspective now. Okay, this is how small it really is. You see it? You can see it in perspective now. You can see that it's on the right, way over on the right side of this big rock, and it's underneath the boughs of this tree. You see the tree hanging across the rock and on the rock? It's actually laying right on it. So that's why I had to write it here, because these branches were too low. So I wrote it down here, and look how small it is. Just putting it in perspective now. So now you can see how, by looking at this, can you see the name, Lew?
Yes.
Right there. Okay. And the lines that I drew underneath, and you can see that the tree is all over this rock. It's laying right up against the rock, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's put that into perspective. Now look. Look how magnified the name is. And look how the branches are pushed off of the rock. And look how thin the branches appear. The other one was a big bush with a lot of branches and leaves. Here it looks like all the leaves, half of them have fallen off, and all the branches are broke off here. It's been pushed back somehow. And the leaves, half of the leaves have turned white. Put it back into perspective. See what I'm saying?
Yes. Amazing.
Real small here. It's not huge like that. And how did that get centered? And here, notice it's underneath the tree in the shade, and the tree is overtaking the rock. Okay. Now look, the name is in the center of the picture. It's huge. It's a center point, and it's been magnified, and the tree's totally off the rock. Why? Because this force shield here, whatever this shield, that you can actually really see it down here in the bottom right, that it is a shield protecting that rock, right? You can see that whatever the shield is not allowing these branches to touch the rock anymore. It's pushed them totally off of the rock and magnified his name and put it in center, point and center. It's not amazing, or is that amazing?
Well, the name is the stone the builders rejected, and you've just written it on the rock.
Yeah, there it is, back in perspective. My wife was standing over here.
Yeah.
Like right over, she was like, I think she was sitting on this rock when she took that picture. She was standing here, I think. Yeah, she was standing right around in here. But yet the side of this right-hand side of this rock was magnified, and the branches were pushed back.
Wow.
She would, in order for her to be able to center this name in that photo, she would have to stand over here on this rock, even over this way a little bit, to get that point and center on the photo. But she was not. She was over here.
And when she took the picture, it was really because she was trying to get a picture of the light, and yet it randomly picked up all kinds of information.
All kinds of stuff. And yeah, she saw the light and she couldn't look. Immediately she knew she couldn't look at that thing. So she turned her head, closed her eyes, stuck her arm up there and snapped the picture. And all this came out of that instant reaction she had.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing thing. And you can see the flats. And here's the big round ones.
Yeah.
You know, the round ones seem to be out of place here because everything else is flat. It's flat surfaced. Look how flat this surface is, you know. Here's that round rock right here in the right-hand bottom corner. And I wanted to show you that one. Hang on, let's go back to that one. Okay, I'm going to show you something here real quick on this. This is us leaving now. We took off out of there because it was so hot. The kids' face were beet red.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Yep, it did. You need to put up the picture you want to share, please, because it's not sharing, okay?
Well, we were looking at all the pictures all together.
Okay, but people can't tell which one you're talking about. They're too small. Go ahead and go again.
Okay, so anyway, let's just continue on. I was going to show you something, but we'll just skip through that.
The round rocks.
Okay, so this is, no, I was going to show you the narrow gate that we had to walk through. I actually had to turn sideways and snake through it. And the stuff that we were carrying, we had to hand over the fence to somebody else before we could even walk through it. That's how tight that gate was.
We're not seeing
So
it.
this is a footprint that we came across on the way back.
We're not seeing it, Mark. It's not there.
Not seeing that?
No?
No, we've got the screen with when you were walking up the road and the picture that Pamela took, and then when you're with the kids on the rocks.
Yeah, all the pictures.
The last one we
You
see
see
right
that?
there.
Are you
Yeah,
seeing
the
that?
part where the bedding is up in the rock. You got the bedding up in the rock. That's the
So you're
last
seeing
picture
that?
you see.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, hang on a minute.
All
I got to
right.
get to this last
Here's
couple.
your- yeah, now you got it. If you click it, will that enlarge it so people can really see it well?
Well, I can scroll it and blow it up like this. Are you seeing it?
No, just double click that one picture. It might work.
I don't know why was it working before, Lou?
No, it wasn't.
We were looking at all the
Fine,
pictures.
keep going. I mean, Lou can cut this part out, but it's just hard to tell which picture you're talking about. Although I can see the foot now, so that's very clear. So keep going. Sorry. Just want people to be able to see what you're, what you're showing.
Are you seeing the foot?
Yeah, I see the foot.
Okay, so
Number-
here's the foot. Right, it was about 100 yards from our vehicle on the way back. It's got 6 toes. It's definitely in the shape of a man's foot. There's a round heel right here. And it's collapsed because there was a washout underneath the bank here of the creek. And the weight of whoever made this print, it collapsed under the mud collapsed under his weight. And so it's down in there about a half inch or so. And the toes even went deeper down in. And this was another spiritual moment in what, can you see the rainbows?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to wrap this up here in just a second. He shared with me that this foot was what he called the Bigfoot Syndrome. And that is that when people see something, we all see something like that. We all agree that it's a footprint of a man. Or if we see dogs' footprints, we all agree to that because we've all seen it, so we're all in agreement. But when somebody sees something and nobody else has seen, all of a sudden nobody believes them because they are so self-absorbed. If they didn't see it, it's not real. You've got to be a liar because they didn't see it. And so if 10,000 credible witnesses see something and they all say, we saw it. And one person looks at that and they hear all those 10,000 testimonies of these eyewitnesses. They say, y'all bunch of crazy people. Y'all are nuts. You're all just doing that for a different agenda. And it's not real because I myself did not see it. So all you 10,000 are wrong. You're crazy. You're lying. And I'm right because I didn't see it. So I don't believe it. So that makes me right.
Well, maybe if they drew a cartoon instead of taking photographs, because NASA is always the suspect.
Exactly.
Don't believe a cartoon, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Bigfoot syndrome type,
Uh-huh.
the way you see things, exegesis or eisegesis type thoughts in your mind, how you accept things. It's not all about you. It's just because we don't understand something or we don't see something, it doesn't mean the other ones are lying, but that's the way people think, and that's a big stumbling block as far as belief goes, how people believe, or if they're a believer or unbeliever, even with Yahusha. So we get back to the hotel now, and we couldn't see the pictures. I told my wife, let's look at them pictures. Well, her phone battery was dead. So I said, oh man, charge that thing. So we went and we did a few things and laying around in there and so forth and so on, went swimming, whatever. And so the next at evening came Yom Shabbat. So now we're going to chill out and we're resting in our hotel room because it's the rest day, the seventh day. Toward the end of the seventh day here is what this is, Yom Shabbat, and we're in our hotel room resting. You can see we're in a room looking out the window. So I'm sitting there on the couch doing something. I don't remember what I was doing. And all of a sudden, my little granddaughter says, hey, Paul. She goes, there's a rainbow. I said, yeah, okay. I've seen a million of them. No, Paul, come and look. I said, I've seen a million rainbows, Sophie. I was doing something. And then she goes, no, Paul, this one's very special. You got to come and see this one. And so I jumped up and I walked over and I looked out the window, and here was two rainbows where I could see both ends. This one here didn't get caught in the frame, but you could see both ends of these double rainbows here, one over top of the other. I hope you're all seeing that. And so anyway, what happened at this point is I didn't getting much out of it other than it was rainbows. Yeah, it's real pretty. And she's staring at it. She's just having a ball with this thing, right? So later on, when I get home and I'm really thinking about all this and thoughts just swirling in my mind, I started concentrating on this. And I said, what is this all about? And Yahusha, again, gave me a message that for as in the days of Noah, so shall be the second coming of the Messiah.
The sign of the covenant. Yeah.
Of the covenant, the days of Noah, right?
Yeah.
And so that leads me up to what I like to say now is to wrap this up, and then you can ask me questions or whatever you want to do, Lew, after this, and I'll be done. The message here, folks, is a twofold message. And the message Yahusha sent us is that, one, we all need to stop seeking the treasures of this carbon copied world. They're not going to be with us forever. No matter how much of it you collect or find, we're not going to keep it. It's irrelevant. It's going to be burnt up. You're chasing temporal treasures of this world. Stop doing that. Okay. And stop looking for gold and artifacts and proving that certain civilizations existed and this and all that. Instead, he wants us to start searching out him. He wants us to search for Yahuwah, who is the true treasure, while we still can. While we still can. The days of Noah are upon us. Okay. And so the second message of the twofold message that he wants people to hear is that the sign of his second coming, the end of the latter days, if you will, is that the days will be as of the day of Noah. With wickedness and disobedience was everywhere. He only delivered 8 people out of the entire world. That's how wicked the world was. He only found Noah and his family to deliver. He almost destroyed everything. He would have if it wasn't for one man out of the entire world. That's how wicked it was. We can see this replaying in our era. The disobedience and the wickedness is everywhere. We're in the days of Noah. So seek Yahuwah while you still can, while he's still available. Because we're approaching the end of the latter days. And this is what this rainbow was telling me. All right, so that's it. The only other thing I'd like to say is this. a quote from scriptures itself. You find it in Revelations 3:18, and it says, I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire. What's he saying here? He's the true treasure. He's the gold refined in the fire. Stop searching out earthly treasure and start searching for the true gold that's refined in the fire, Yahuwah. I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire so that you become rich. If you find him, you're going to be rich. In eternity, we're going to be richer than we can stand. We won't be able to stand ourselves. We're going to be so wealthy. And it's permanent wealth. It's not temporal, like the wealth that we're searching out now. Like the big dummy that was up on the rock, searching for earthly treasure, when the true treasure, the refined gold, was present. And I should have been down on my face and pulled my shoes off and worshiping him, seeking him out instead. This is what he wants us to do now. He says it's time. And white garments so that you become dressed. This is your mortal body. So that the shame of your nakedness might not be shown, which is your disobedience, and anoint your eyes with oil so that you will see. So that you will see. All right, Lew, that's pretty much our adventure and our story. That
all I can say is I appreciate you so much, Mark, and I hope everyone that's watching this is moved. And there's treasures that you've brought from the scriptures, from the past and the present, and we're just in awe of what this experience has done.